let's do that again. I call to order the regular meeting of Lakewood City Council of March 23rd, 2015. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Murphy?
Here.
Shakti? Here. Kellen? Here. Johnson?
Here.
Wickman? Here. Paul? Here. Harrison? Here. Quinn?
Here.
Coop?
Here.
Barraway?
Here.
Roybal?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. As always, I'd like to welcome everyone who's chosen to take part in their local government by being here with us live in chambers tonight or watching us at home on our channel, either on our website or on Channel 8. Also Channel 880 right now, high definition television. I'd like to extend a special welcome to two fellow elected officials who are here with us this evening. First, RTD Director Natalie Menton, from whom we will hear very shortly. And a bit later in the program, we'll hear from Jefferson County Commissioner Don Rozier, who's right down here. Welcome to you both. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Will the clerk please read item 4 into the record, and Director Menton, if you would work your way down.
Item 4, presentation update on Regional Transportation District.
Work your way down to a position you know well right here at the lectern. Welcome, Natalie.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to speak before the council. Want to just catch you all up on where we're at with our fare proposal, and especially for the public who may be watching. This is quite a dramatic change if it does go forward. And where we're at right now is starting to open up public comment from the general public. And so what I've given you all is something that'll be a little easier to take away from today, which is this brochure that covers the public meetings that are coming up. So first of all, let's just start with in Lakewood. The meeting is this Wednesday at Clements Community Center. So if you know of anybody who'd like to participate, that's going to be their chance.
What time?
That'll be at, let me make sure on that one, 6:30 p.m. Again, Wednesday, 25th, 6:30 p.m. Okay. I know we have a limited amount of time here, so I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly. We started this process going on about 9 months ago. So we still have a few months left where we'll be going through various stages. But there's been a lot of things that have happened up to this point. Right now, I'm going to give you a little background. With our TD, we are required by state statute to have a certain amount of fare recovery from our tickets that we sell. Now, the formula, there's different views on which formula to use, but generally the law states that we have to have 30% cost recovery from people who are paying the fares to get on the bus, but there's some different parts to the formula, as you'll see there. So it's not that we can just give it away for free right now as currently stands. You look at the fare history. Basically, the reason I included this slide is it indicates that 2011 was the last time that we had a fare increase. And so we're a little bit overdue. As I've been doing these presentations, people will try to use some examples from other cities and say, in this city, I encountered this, it was certain fare, they have this certain structure in another state. Again, I know we're short on time, but what this will show you here.
Take your time.
Okay, is Denver is quite different and a little bit hard to come up with a true peer for us. We are a very wide, sprawling community. We are trying to build transit through existing populated areas. And we do serve a large portion of the population for our service area. So as you can see here, the shaded areas on the screen, and maybe a little bit hard to read for somebody who's viewing on TV, but Denver right now, population density, we have about 1,126 people per square mile. If you look at a lot of other cities, you're going to see quite a variation there of anywhere from, if you look at San Francisco, you got 16,000. 5,000 in New Jersey. And so when you look at density, that has a lot to do with how your transportation system is going to work. How far do you have to travel? How far people are going from one place to another? And so I just bring this up because it's not easy to just say, well, I was in Washington, D.C., and this is what it cost me there, or in some other places. Especially people like to bring up other countries. So let's move on to what we are proposing. As I say, this is pretty dramatic. Let's just start with the basic thing that will affect a lot of people. We're getting rid of transfers. How many of you use public transit pretty regularly with RTD? You probably know that getting rid of transfers will be quite different for some users. For those who are not familiar, the way transfer works is, say you get onto bus A, and you're going to need to transfer to another, whether it's light rail or another bus. You're going to ask the driver for the transfer, and you have to use the transfer within 3 hours. This proposal gets rid of the transfers. The bus drivers and our transit drivers are thrilled that this is part of the proposal, because dealing with transfers makes the job pretty difficult. People will bring up fraud, which could be people jumping onto using the system without paying. Just with transfers, there's a lot of problems. People actually sell transfers. It creates a lot of arguments if they're not within that 3-hour window. So right now, this proposes to get rid of the transfers. As you can see here, this gives you the pricing on what we are proposing. And so instead of giving you, let me go back to another big change is on the West Corridor. This gets rid of the zones. A lot of people have complained about the zones. You'll see here that there's pricing included. And to start with, the first figure you'll see is if it's a regular fare. It's not a discounted fare. If somebody is 65 or older, if they have disabilities, which are confirmed, they go through a process to do that. Medicare recipients or students age 6 to 19, they're going to be that second price, just so everybody understands, basically half price. With the West Corridor, right now, as you probably know, if you go from Taj Mahal down to Union Station, it's $4. In this case here, somebody making that same single trip would be $2.60. Now that sounds great, except you have to go back and remember the transfers are going away. So how did somebody get to the West Line? Did they take a bus? If so, then they're going to be paying a boarding fee to get on the bus and then paying the boarding fee to use the train. There's a whole bunch of different ways that this can be mapped out on how it will affect different individuals. That's why I thought it was very important to bring this forward to you so that you can include your own input and also share it at your town hall meetings with others to kind of pay attention to this. It's not that it'll be permanent and we can't make changes, but we have been going through the process pretty long here. So that was talking about the single boarding with a local bus or local rail. We have different classifications. One of the main reasons that we were doing part of this is we had so many different levels, so many different fares, it was very complex. It still is just a little bit difficult depending on how you ride. If you're getting on an express bus, it's a whole different set of fares, just as it is now. Regional bus, which we really don't have within the Lakewood area. That's going to be somebody coming from Conifer, somebody in Boulder coming down. Regional won't affect this area very much. The airport is another change. What we are charging at this moment is either $9, $11, or $13, depending on how far you're going. This will make it just a straight $10. Again, if you're a discount fare, that's $5. Something that's important to keep in mind is those are cash prices that I just told you about. If you pay with a smart card, which we are rolling out about the third quarter of this year, towards fall, is instead of that $2.60 or the $4.50 or the $5.50, you're going to get a 25-cent discount off the fare if you use your smart card. So even if let's say your income level is very challenging, what you're going to want to do is use the smart card. Even if you load it up every morning with $3 or $5 or $6, you're going to get that discount. The next nice thing, and I like this a lot, is the day pass. So if you are going to be riding twice a day or 3 times a day, or you have those transfers that really challenge you because you would be paying multiple boarding fees, then the recommendation is you buy the day pass. So there, if you're using local, no matter how many times you ride it each day, unless you're riding express, regional, or airport, if it's just locals, you want to buy the day pass. The 25-cent discount does not apply to the day pass. There's monthly pass. There's a bunch of other passes that we'll be addressing later on. All of these, just so somebody knows, how did we create these fares? Here would be an example. The day pass, again, is if you're getting on twice, that's $2.60 times 2. That's what gives us the $5.20 fare. If a monthly pass, right now, RTD staff has calculated or feels the best way to do that is if somebody is boarding 40 times a month, so boarding is a single time, $40, that's your break even to buy a monthly pass. If you're going to board more than 40 times, then you're coming out ahead. Okay, so hopefully that's going to be the most complex part of the presentation. These next couple pages will just kind of go over what I was already presenting. So the reason we were doing all of this, again, was fare simplification, plus we haven't raised the fares since 2011. So you're going to see here the day pass availability will be on the board, on the buses. We're also going to be investing quite a bit of money into vending machines at rail stations, sales outlets, and on the buses themselves. You probably all are not surprised to hear something like that costs you a couple $1 million, $3 million just putting those in. We're hoping people will catch on to the smart cards because that should reduce our costs. Again, we're eliminating the rail zones. Personally, I heard some complaints about that, but apparently system-wide, people just have not liked the fare zones. They don't feel it's fair. Again, anything that makes it a little more simple is good. I've covered most of this. We're, again, paying per boarding, elimination of the zones, the airport fee or fare. You'll note here regional day pass. If you do a regional pass, which again, this doesn't affect this area, but let's say somebody's traveling from Boulder and then going to the airport, instead of all these where you can add on, the best thing to do is to just buy that regional day pass if you happen to be somebody who works at the airport and you're using other transit too. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of just what we face with our revenue and our operating costs. Comes down to this: there is no bus route within the RTD, or no route within the RTD system that pays for itself. And the level of subsidy can be somewhat acceptable, and in some cases I think it's frankly horrible. Our operating budget is, excuse me, revenue is $534 million, okay, for 2015. Okay, $534 million is the revenue. Our expenditures are close to $937 million. So that's not even close to what it costs. The next slide here, because I'm doing presentations at various cities. Tonight I'm doing Wheat Ridge right after here. I put in some of the routes that are in this area. And what you're going to see here is the name of the route. A little bit down you'll see there's Belmar Collin Ride. Some of them are very easy to tell what they are. West Line is the very last one. You'll see the fare revenue and the operating costs for each of those routes. The net subsidy and the subsidy per boarding. Again, per boarding is every time you step onto it. It's not your full round trip. You take the 76 to work and back home. That subsidy is times 2. If you take the W line, each time you get on the W line, it's an $8 subsidy. Just so everybody knows what subsidy means, is the passenger paid, as an example, at this moment, they're $4. So the subsidy is on top of that. So the true cost for that ride is $12. Okay, so everybody, I know you all may be a little bit more used to this, but for the public. And so the reason I included this slide is there's going to be a lot of people who say, well, you know, it's too expensive to ride. But on the other hand, look at the subsidies. And for me, myself, yes, the riders are people I have to answer to, but I also have to, for me personally, my vote on the RTD board, I also have to answer to the taxpayers who don't ride the bus, yet they are funding this system. And there's actually more taxpayers, obviously, who don't ride the bus than the ones who do, so larger percentage out there. So the reason we came up with these costs is because it comes down to our strategic budget. At first, the fares were recommended just a little bit lower, but we weren't going to cover our projections. And so as they stand right now, we will meet our strategic budget, what we need to do, what we need to bring in. If we don't go with these fare rates, then we face pretty much the most obvious thing is that we cut service in some area where it's costs us more to run it. And in an area like the rural parts, those are the areas that are going to take more of a hit than probably downtown Denver, because they cost more to operate. The further out the service goes, the more it costs. Studies, surveys were done in 2011. At that time, people who were using the service preferred to see a fare increase than a service cut. So we're doing public comment right now. Any of you who would like to weigh in on that, please do. For me, it's pretty important to bring the revenue up so that we don't have to do service cuts. But if that's what people would like, then we can go that route too. Lower income challenge people, that's something that's we're hearing very much from the public. So I included this slide to let you know that we do have a pretty expansive system. Right now we work with 200 nonprofit agencies, and we will do everything from giving out some free fares to giving these agencies reduced cost fares, which then they have the choice of either giving to their clients or to charge 50%. You'll see at the bottom there, there was about $5.8 million in fare media under these programs. Right in 2014, RTD subsidized about $2.5 million of that. So where do we go from here without reading through all of these? And somebody can always go to our website, rtd-denver.com, again, rtd-denver.com, and look up the public hearings. Again, the one here in Lakewood will be this Wednesday, March 25th, 6:30 p.m., Clements Community Center. If they can't make that hearing, they can go to the website or dial into our phone line if they should not have easy access to the internet, and give their comments online or through our customer service line, which is 303-299-6000. Again, 303-299-6000. And we will be in our April 14th meeting hearing the results of all this public comment, and that following Tuesday we will be voting on it as a board. So this is coming up pretty quickly. The steps after that, excuse me, sorry about flipping back and forth. And we'll be looking more closely at the PASS program. One big question that we've got right now is we have a lot of employers who use the EcoPass and the FlexPass, pretty much the same thing. Because our system really doesn't track ridership very well, because we can't really tell how often people are getting on certain buses or trains. We only have automatic passenger counters on about a third of our fleet. So it's not that every day we can tell when somebody's getting on and off. And those third of the fleet circulate around the system. So we'll track a certain route one day, then that car will move over to another area next day, et cetera. So with now using the Eco Pass, the Flex Pass, the College Pass, because people are having to tap the card, we're finally getting a good readership on that. We frankly don't know the best amount to charge for that because we don't know what the usage is. So those will come after the April meeting. Those are coming up. But I know those affect a lot of employers. And we don't want to be any more disruptive than we are with this process. Anyway, I think I covered it all. I don't know how I did on time.
Oh, you did great, Natalie. Two quick comments and a question that can be answered later. Maybe Dave Basket can help us with a question. But first of all, we have a copy of this presentation for anyone that wants to show it at ward meetings. Just check with staff. That came over this morning. Secondly, one thing you weren't able to cover in this presentation, a RTD board chair from a few years back mentioned to me that in terms of your overall cost structure, I think some federal mandates that require you to service a certain percentage of the population, right, is up to 10% of your budget. At least it was at that time. So accessoride and that sort of thing. So you're spending 10% of your budget, and rightfully so, but serving less than maybe 1% of the passengers. So that's something that's sort of built into the structure that you have. So that makes fare box recovery even that much more important. And finally, my question has to do with the that chart you had on subsidized routes. Are capital costs figured into that?
Yes, they are.
They are. So the cost of the buses, the cost of the trains, and yeah, well, that makes sense then, given that difference in rail versus rolling stock. Okay, great. Any other questions? Shakti diving for the button.
I wonder, when you are looking at the revenue from the two options, if you're considering the potential decrease in ridership when you're looking at that option.
Staff is trying to add in everything they can on this very, very complex guessing game, really is what it is. Because so I think they're trying to add it in as best as they can.
Okay, and I have one more. Is there any preference given to rail versus buses in terms of what the rates are on or what the subsidy that each get is?
I'm not sure. Okay, so is there really any preference given to the fares?
Is it the same price to take a bus as to take the rail?
Yes. Whereas right now it's not.
Right now it's cheaper to take which
Bus.
bus?
Yeah, you could go from Golden to downtown on a local for $2.25. If you're on light rail, it costs you $4. So the argument then has been that, well, we're trying to subsidize or light rail at the cost of the bus riders, but not really. And if you throw in the transfer situation, how does somebody get to the light rail? Then it's not just at $2.25. It gets pretty complex, but it. And as for the subsidy, I don't know the last part of where you said about the subsidy, because subsidy just boils down to how many people rode it and how much revenue did we get.
You addressed the issue.
Okay.
It gets a little bit back to that question I asked about whether capital costs were included in that chart, and obviously the capital cost of a rail line is significantly more than that of a lot of rolling stock. Councilor Quinn?
Sure. Natalie, maybe it was on one of your slides and I just missed it. But how does this impact call and ride? I'm sorry.
Well, it will. One, you won't have the transfers. We're going to be having to put substantial capital investment into putting the pass machine, the vending machine, on the buses. If you were using the call and ride, say in the area that you and I are in the Belmar district area, you would get on the call and ride. You would pay your either $2.35 or $2.60, pending. And then let's say you're going to the 13th and Wadsworth station. Well, actually you can't with that, but let's say you're going pretty close to it. Or going to Oak Street station, which is the preferred way for the Belmar call and ride. Then you would pay again, unless you're just going to go and buy your day pass. And then you're paying once. You get on the train, and when you come home, you're using the same day's pass. So that's how it affects it. And by the way, Belmar call and ride is really getting worse. So there's going to be some changes there.
Well, yeah, I've taken it a few times, and I've been alone on it most of the time. There was one other person once, and it seems just really inefficient to have those big call and ride buses. I know there's some cities out there that use vans or smaller vehicles for call and ride, and that's probably more efficient than the minibuses.
Yeah. Just let me give you one back. With the call and rides, we have 2 within the Lakewood area. The minimum to keep one of those going is supposed to be 3 boardings per hour. Right now, Belmar's sitting at about 1.7 per hour.
Wow, that's pretty abysmal. Mm-hmm. Okay, one other question, and this was, I think, on your first slide. It was the fare box recapture rate, and I thought I saw 49.8%. Am I mistaken about that?
No, you see that in there, and you know, I'm going to just say, oops. Sorry. I almost really, being really very frank, question the formula used. It depends on how you calculate it, and you'll even find some members within our RTD organization that kind of disagree. I do not, frankly, believe that we're really that close to 50%. The other figures that will get used commonly are either 22 or 26%. Just depends on how you calculate it out.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Natalie.
You're welcome.
Director.
Is there anybody, since I am here, would like some of extras of these?
Yeah, if you would leave a few.
I'll
that
just give you the
that would be great.
extras.
Some that we can take to the ward meetings. And again, if the public has any comment on this, I would encourage you to attend one of those meetings as opposed to here tonight, because that's really where the input will be recorded as part of the process.
And just for anybody who is going to make a public comment, if I don't want to read off my email address, but please copy me on it so that I do see what was put into the, the suggestion box. I would appreciate that. Thanks.
Thanks. All right, on to the next 4 items are resolutions appointing members to boards and commissions. As the city clerk reads them into the record, I'm going to turn each one over to the chair of our screening committee, Councilor Barraway. So, Margie?
Item 5, Resolution 2015-12, appointing a member to the Lakewood Planning Commission.
Mayor Murphy, I move for adoption of Resolution 2015-12, appointing Robert Eady as the Ward 4 representative to the Lakewood Planning Commission. He'll be filling Jay Goldie's spot. I don't see Robert in the audience here tonight. I just want to say that we had quite a few candidates who applied for this position. It was a very competitive interview process, and very pleased to have Robert Eady join the Lakewood Planning Commission.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I concur that there were a lot of very qualified candidates. Robert was just very, very impressive. So, please cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. Congratulations, Robert, and thank you for your willingness to serve on this very important commission, the Planning Commission. Margie?
Item 6, Resolution 2015-13, appointing members to the Lakewood Board of Appeals.
Mayor Murphy, I move for adoption of Resolution 2015-13, appointing Robert Franz to the Board of Appeals. He would serve a term from April 1st, 2015 and end on March 31st, 2018. This was previously held by Julie. Thank you to Julie Carr. And then also appointing Tanya Wrights, who's here in the audience, to the Board of Appeals for a 3-year term, also commencing April 1st, 2015 and ending on March 31st, 2018. And she's filling a spot previously held by Andrew Hassinger. And thank you to Andrew for his time and service on the Board of Appeals.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Again, it passes unanimously.
I know, like I said, Tanya's here in the audience
Tanya,
in the back there.
There you are. Congratulations, I think, and thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Margie?
Item 7, Resolution 2015-14, reappointing a member to the Lakewood Historic Preservation Commission.
Mayor Murphy, I move for adoption of Resolution 2015-14, and that's reappointing Sharon Vincent to the Lakewood Historic Preservation Commission. She had served for the last 7 or 8 months, and she came back and decided she wanted to continue to do it. And she would fill a term that would go from April 1st, 2015 and end on March 31st, 2019. Again, another time when we had quite a few qualified applicants who came out to apply for this position. And it was just great to meet some people from our city, and also great to have Sharon to come back onto the Historic Preservation Commission.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. Congratulations, Sharon, and thanks. Finally, item 8, Margie.
Item 8, Resolution 2015-15, appointing a member to the Lakewood Judicial Review Commission.
Mayor Murphy, I move for adoption of Resolution 2015-15, which is appointing the Chief Judge of the First Judicial District Court, which is Phil McNulty, to the Judicial Review Commission. And just as most of you who have watched over the last 8 years have known, I typically recuse myself from anything to do with the municipal court judges, as my husband is a temporary part-time judge there, but by no means does that mean that that is our sole source of income. On this particular case, Judge McNulty did not interview with the screening committee. It is one of the positions that is a must fill. It's just a position that was done by Chief Steve Munzinger, and Chief Munzinger has recently retired from the First Judicial District Court. And so Chief Judge McNulty is replacing him on our Judicial Review Commission.
It's a requirement that.
It's a requirement that we have the Chief Judge or somebody appointed by the Chief Judge to serve. So there was no interview process.
Second.
And of course, Judge McNulty is a former Lakewood Municipal Court judge.
Yes, he is.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And the judge will know that, be glad to know it passed unanimously. All right. Thank you. On to public comment. This is the portion of the meeting where the public is invited to comment on non-agenda items. Again, I'll skip part of the instructions. It's a pretty light turnout tonight. We have 3 minutes down here. The first 2.5 minutes, the light will be green. When it turns yellow, you know that you'll have 30 seconds left. And when it turns red, we would ask you to wrap up your comments. There is one name on the roster tonight, Sally Reed. Come on down.
Good evening. My name's Sally Reed. I live at 911 Depew Street in Two Creeks, and I'm also the Director of Development at the Action Center. Some of you know us as the Jeffco Action Center. And on behalf of our clients, first I want to thank the City of Lakewood for the support that you've given us for so many years. But I also want to remind you of the beautiful junk sale that's going to be at the Jeffco Fairgrounds this Friday and Saturday. The Saturday hours are 8 to 4, and Friday we open at 7 o'clock, and we are extending, for the first time this year, extending our hours, so we're going to be open till 7 o'clock in the evening. So I do invite you all to come and support the Action Center and shop till you drop. Thank you very much.
Shop till you drop. Thanks, Sally. Anyone else in chambers wish to comment on a non-agenda item? All right, with that, public comment is closed. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda has been made to expedite council action. It contains tonight both resolutions and first reading ordinances. Resolutions are items of a fairly routine nature, which the public will have an opportunity to comment on in a moment. First reading ordinances, and there are a couple tonight, appear only for the purpose of setting future public hearing dates and ordering the newspaper publication of the proposed ordinance. Therefore, no public comment will be heard this evening on first reading ordinances. The public will have an opportunity to comment on those ordinances during the public hearing set tonight, the date set tonight by City Council. And once again, these are both non-zoning cases, so it's the kind of thing that you can talk to your City Council members about at any time, not just at the public hearing. So will the clerk please read the items on the consent agenda into the record?
The consent agenda consists of items 10 through 18 inclusive. Item 10, Resolution 2015-16, authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement to establish a regional criminal justice records management system consortium. Item 11, Resolution 2015-17, approving participation in the Jefferson County Public Safety Fiber Optic Network. Item 12, Resolution 2015-18, endorsing the 2015-2016 Head Start grant application for the purpose of submitting the funding request to the federal government. Item 13, Resolution 2015-19, approving an amendment to contract between the Colorado Department of Transportation and the City of Lakewood regarding state traffic signal maintenance. Item 14, Resolution 2015-20, approving a traffic signal maintenance contract between the City of Lakewood and the Colorado Department of Transportation for the years 2015 through 2020. Item 15, ordinance 2015-6, authorizing the city to enter into a letter of agreement with Art Space Projects, Inc., and budgeting and appropriating funds for the 2015 fiscal year from the Economic Development Fund. Item 16, ordinance 2015-7, authorizing the conveyance of a permanent utility easement to Public Service Company across a portion of Patterson Cottage's open space park for a transformer for underground electric lines. Item 17, approving the minutes of the regular city council meeting of February 23rd, 2015, and accepting the minutes of the Lakewood Planning Commission meeting of February 18th, 2015.
Great, thank you. As part of the consent agenda this evening, we do have one presentation, and that is on item 10, Resolution 2015-16, authorizing the execution of intergovernmental agreement to establish a regional criminal justice records management system consortium. And for that, I would ask Commander John Pickard to come on down. And as many members of particular Budget and Audit Committee will remember, this is a presentation that the Budget and Audit Committee saw a few weeks back. Commander Pickard, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. The slides will be a abbreviated version of what I gave to the Budget and Audit Committee to give you just a brief background and why we're going forward with the IGA on this. So the Jefferson County Regional RMS Consortium, or RMSC, was formed to identify and implement the most technologically reliable, effective, efficient records management system for the law enforcement agencies for the Jefferson County region. Initially, we included the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department as part of that. In about October of last year, they withdrew from the consortium. So now the consortium consists of Lakewood, Arvada, Wheat Ridge, Golden, Edgewater, and the Mountain View Police Departments, for a total of about 579 sworn officers in this group with those 6 agencies. Just as a background, the current RMS system with Intergraph Public Safety was purchased in 2002 and implemented in 2003. Our current Intergraph RMS system is not compatible with the current web technologies out there, and this was identified by our prior IT Director, Boris Nachonsky. And so we started a process to say, okay, well, Intergraph, give us your new product. Well, when we asked for them, their product was still in development. They gave us a demonstration. It was very poorly received because it was still in development. They didn't really have a product yet. And they also told us that because the platform in which Intergraph, the current iLeads works on, was no longer going to be supported, this would be a completely new purchase. So it wouldn't be an upgrade. And so we had to look for a new vendor. And so we joined a consortium in 2013 and then proceeded to look for a new vendor. As part of that process, we put out an RFI. In 2013, we had vendors come in and provide us demonstrations in that same year, and there were 3 finalists that came out of those demonstrations. New World, SunGuard, and Niche were the 3 finalists. Then we gathered a group together to do site visits. That regional team included 2 IT members from Jefferson County and Lakewood, along with the records managers of Arvada, Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, and Golden. So we went to these different sites, talked to the agencies to see how they were working for them. And unanimously, it turns out that with the site visits, with our demonstrations, with the scoring that we gave to the RFI, every time Niche came out as the unanimous, not high, but the unanimous decision of all those is the best product out there. So in May of 2014, we offered and started a contract process. Well, unfortunately, Jefferson County pulled out, and it kind of delayed the whole process because they were the project manager of the group. I became the project manager for the consortium, and so we've been working ever since to move it on with, it was 5 agencies at the time, and in that process, Mountain View Police Department then joined us. So we lost the Sheriff's Department, but we picked up Mountain View Police Department. The IGA, the CEOs of the agencies came together and decided we needed to come together with an IGA to provide some clear governance for this, because it was managing for 6 agencies. Originally, Lakewood was going to contract, and now we have the RMSC with the IGA. When it comes together, it can be that consortium that contracts with Niche, not just Lakewood as the contract individual or the entity, and that gives us that group essence to and that's why we're doing it with the IGA, we bring that group together. Also, part of the IGA, we're implementing we're going to have a executive manager for the consortium as part of the cost, and so that will manage it in an enterprise level over the 6 agencies to make sure that we're all working together, cooperating and coordinating and collaborating to meet the efficiencies that we anticipate the system's going to bring us. The timeline is that the first agency will come online a year.
You have a couple more slides? Or?
Oops. There's that one. And then that's where I'm at now.
Okay.
Thank you. And the timeline right now is the first agency will go live 1 year from the time we have a signed contract. Implementation will be staggered over the period of time, with the smaller agencies coming online first, and that will be Golden and Edgewater. They're the 2 agencies that are the most hurting for a new records management system. Lakewood is going to be the host site for this records management system, so almost contemporaneous to those 2 sites going live, I anticipate Lakewood not being far after them, so it won't be another year for Lakewood to go live. So I'm anticipating somewhere in the second and third quarter of 2016, the Lakewood Police Department will be live with the system. And I'm open for questions.
Great. Thank you, Commander. Appreciate the background for those non-budget and audit committee members as well as for the community. And Councillor Johnson, question?
Thank you. I'm just curious, how will having the sheriff's office withdraw affect the rest of the system?
It won't affect the system. The only disappointing part is that because they're the largest law enforcement agency in the county, we don't get to share their records as readily as we would with the agencies that are participating in it. Basically what happens is that we all become one records, all the agencies who are participating, so I can, as an officer on the street, see live what Wheat Ridge has entered into the RMS system, the records management system, of a contact or a traffic stop within minutes of that being entered, whereas I would have to go through our COPLINK process or request information from Jefferson County for information on contacts that they have. So it's one less agency in terms of having the ability to share the information. We can still get it, just not in as timely a manner. It does affect it financially a little bit because it increased our cost a little bit, but we still have a major cost savings even without them participating.
It's a real handicap. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Dave?
Let me piggyback on Ramey's question. What was the Sheriff's Department's rationale for being so intimately involved in the process and then withdrawing at the end?
My understanding, in talking to the Sheriff's Office, was that they're currently with Tiburon. That vendor came back with a upgrade that was substantially less than what their share of the niche product would be. The Sheriff's Office is in a unique position in that they also need a jail management system, and they also need a civil process. Niche has both of those, but not to the robustness that the Sheriff's Office wanted, and so therefore they were going to have to maintain a civil process third-party vendor and stick with their Tiburon JMS, jail management system. So had that been robust enough, it would have made sense cost-wise in terms of coming on. They also have been dealing with some budget issues and felt it was very difficult, I think, to go forward with a more expensive program with the cost that they were going to be impacting. We don't have to deal with a civil process or a JMS.
Sure. Yep. Thank you for your presentation, Commander. I was just going to piggyback in conversations I've had with Sheriff Schrader. Seemed like this is something that they really do support. However, that jail platform, that it just didn't fit into it, so it wasn't something they could go forward with.
Right.
Great. Thank you. No more questions, so appreciate it. Thanks, Commander. All right, I am ready for a motion on the consent agenda as a whole.
Mayor Murphy, I move for the approval of the council minutes for the acceptance of the minutes and boards of commissions, order all ordinances introduced on first reading to be published in the Denver Post with the public hearing set for date included in the ordinance and for the adoption of resolutions, all of which are included in the consent agenda, items introduced into the record by the city clerk.
Second.
Motion and a second. Counselor Wickman?
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. I have a question, but
Oh, sure, go
yeah,
ahead.
later on. You want me to do it now? or-
Yeah, now's
Okay.
the time.
The question is on the Head Start grant application. My question is the city putting in some monies of its own in that application, and if so, how much?
I think I'll ask Sharon Keith Zamora to come on down. I think there was a white paper that she issued that has that answer, which you should have received.
Hi, Sharon Keith, Samara Family Services Manager and Community Resources. Yes, the city does contribute to the grant through the in-kind contributions that were outlined in that memorandum. It's approximately $250,000 all of the in-kind. That's not all the city share. So there's not a direct cost contribution, but there is the in-kind amount.
Which is federally mandated.
Which is federally mandated.
As part of the program.
As part of the program, yes. And so a good majority of that is through our building services and those kind of things. Okay, anything else?
I will now open the items on the consent agenda to public comment. Nobody had indicated a desire to speak by signing up on the roster, but if anyone has any comment on any of those consent agenda items. Yeah, thank you, just resolutions. All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Any more discussion on consent agenda items? If not, please cast your votes on the consent agenda in its entirety. And it passes unanimously. All right, on to, will the clerk give Commissioner Rozier a second to come forward here since he is on deck. Will the clerk please read item 19 into the record?
Item 19, Ordinance O-2015-5, approving the city's participation in the West Connect Corridor Coalition, authorizing the mayor to sign the West Connect Corridor Coalition Charter, budgeting funds for the city's share of the cost of participation in the coalition, and appropriating those funds for the 2015-2016 fiscal years.
Commissioner, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Murphy, members of council. It's a great honor to be here today, to be on this side of the dais. It's unique. See all these smiling faces. I love it. Yeah, I keep looking behind me here. But tonight I would like to talk to you briefly about transportation, economic development, and what we refer to as the West Connect Coalition. In putting together this document, Mayor, I stopped after a 4-hour presentation.
Thank
I
you.
hope that is
Thank you.
acceptable to.
We appreciate your.
And it's a good
appreciate
thing
your
too, because Garth
consideration.
Brooks took the night off, of his, just to watch these proceedings tonight. So, talk a little bit. That's all the jokes tonight. That's all I'm going to give you. Really quick, the pun is intended here, a road to recovery. When you look at transportation, it's a very important component of our economy with a direct impact on our vitality of our neighborhoods, of our county, of our state, and of our nation. When transportation systems are efficient, they provide economic and social opportunities and benefits that result in positive multiplier effects, such as better accessibility to markets, employment, additional investments. However, when transportations are deficient in terms of capacity or reliability, they can often have an economic cost, such as reduced or misused opportunities and lower quality of life. Just want to, mobility, I'm not going to read these slides to you, but mobility is often viewed as a reliability indicator of economic development and the vitality, the health of a community. There is a multiplier effect. Businesses that utilize this mobility offer services to their customers, employs people, pays wages, invests capital, and generate income. A healthy and vibrant roadway system, whether it's for cars, trucks, bikes, ambulances, fire trucks, bikes, ped paths, is not only economically beneficial, but a large contributor to our overall health and safety. Now, I put in here, I just want to point out, the picture that you see there, that with the road that was collapsed, that's Coal Creek Canyon. That picture I took when I was surveying the damage. That was due to flooding of September 2013. And we had a heck of a time getting people out of Coal Creek Canyon. We had a heck of a time getting vehicles up into Coal Creek Canyon. And once we got them out, you think, they're out of the canyon, they're fine, they're in flatlands. Well, guess what? Indiana was flooded out. We had problems all throughout that part of Jefferson County stretching down into Arvada. It was a major issue of how to get the services, the protection of those people in needed at that time. If you look at our transportation system, and I'm preaching to the choir here, you all know the situation that we're in. If you look at the current information from the governor's office, the state faces a $53 billion shortfall between now and 2035 just to maintain our infrastructure system. The governor's transportation panel has recommended $1.5 billion in annual increase in transportation funding. Gas tax is a dwindling monetary source. When our vehicles become more fuel efficient, when we're driving now hybrids and pure electric vehicles, that is not a reliable funding mechanism for our transportation system. About 3 years ago, Jefferson County embarked on a plan called West Connect. And if you want to throw darts, throw it at me, because I'm the one who came up with the crazy idea. And that crazy idea was to develop a comprehensive and coordinated plan that we use to inform Jefferson County residents, the entire region, of the benefits of completing regional facilities, gauging support for those improvements, determining the best way to fund mobility projects, and to develop a plan for implementing those improvements. The West Connect Coalition, or otherwise just known as the Coalition, has come together to afford various public and quasi-public entities a forum for engaging in a coordinated and collaborative process. The idea here is the options for this multimodal solutions that we're looking at along this corridor is, the idea is to have them advanced by consensus, not by a vote, not by a bully pulpit, not by this person put in the most money so they get all the votes and they move forward. This is a consensus process. And one thing I skipped, I believe I skipped the slide that showed it, and I apologize, was when you look at the West Connect plan, what we did, and the reason for it, is to look at 470 from the south, from about I-25, looking at it how it goes up to I-70, then to look at the transportation system north of I-70. So we look at Colfax into 6, you look at Highway 93, you look at inclusion in the Jefferson Parkway Public Highway Authority, or Jefferson Parkway, you look at Northwest Parkway, you look at all these little these components, some not so little. And in talking with individuals out there, I noticed that there was some confusion. More than a little confusion, a lot of confusion. When you talk to somebody about work on a certain road, or if you talked about the Golden Plan, people didn't know what the Golden Plan was. It was interused with the Golden Plan or the Mueller Plan or other plans, and was Jefferson County a part of that? No, we weren't. That was Golden. So this plan, the West Connect plan, took all those pieces and put all those pieces together to show individuals to be respective of those jurisdictions and to show what is going on into the south on the C470 coalition, what has been designed and is the preferred alternative by the city of Golden, what is happening at 470 and Morrison Road. No, that's a question. What's happening? No, I'm joking. I drive through it all the time. It's crazy. What is going on throughout the pieces that haven't been studied? You have Jefferson Parkway, but what happens about the connector of where Jefferson Parkway ends and where the Golden Plan would pick up? What's happening in there? It was never studied. So the idea here was to put together the West Connect study, to look at all those pieces, to put them together, to identify them in one plan that people can have that's respective of each jurisdiction's ideas of what a multimodal corridor in this area would look like. The coalition was put together very similar to that very successful coalition to the south, the C470 coalition, and it was split up into three different really groups, tranches, categories. One, there's member category, the affiliate member category, and then the state federal affiliate members. And as I mentioned before, it's the idea of the coalition to have any decision made, any plan to go forward via consensus. And the main drivers around that table, the policy group, would be the membership group that you see there as far as Jefferson County. Arvada has signed on. City and County of Broomfield will decide later on this month. And I'm proud to say, after all that we've been through, everything that occurred, the city of Golden was the first city to hear this and the first city to sign on to the charter unanimously. I know. It's a big leap right there.
Great accomplishment.
I would like to, I'll make my pitch a little later for City of Lakewood. And then the town of Morrison is already signed on. If you look at the affiliate members, Boulder County and the City of Boulder have also said that they wanted to be be an affiliate member. And town of Beaumont actually just today declined to be, they did not have the staff available to do what it's going to take to be on the coalition. So they have bowed out. King Carroll Metro District, City of Littleton, Westminster, I gave a presentation similar to this one to them last Monday, and actually they're making a decision tonight. And then Town of Superior originally mentioned that they did not want to be a part, and they have come back and said now that they would like to be a part of the coalition and have a seat around the table. And then you can see down below all of our state and federal members. We tried to be inclusive. I had to say that. I had to pull from your motto. And yes, I read those signs. And to pull in as many people as we can, including metro districts. And then you'll see on there that we have our CDOT director, former council member, Ed Peterson. So if you look at also the coalition will be made up into two committees. There'll be the steering committee and the technical working group. The steering committee is really involved. It's the policy committee. It's made up of the elected officials from the stakeholders in the group that will give direction to the coalition. The technical working group would be made up typically of staff members from the member and affiliate member committee, and that would provide more technical. They were the nuts and bolts, get into the weeds, to figure out different things that are out there, making sure that their plans their ideas on how how this corridor will be, the needs of the corridor will be reflected. Let's see. And the numbers you've all been waiting for. Proposed West Connect local funding percentages. It was really tough. I was working with Kevin French, who has now gone on to bigger and better things from the county. He's actually out in Las Vegas, working out there. He and I sat down, really it was his brainchild and work behind percentages. How do you get to a percentage? Is it based upon lane miles? Is it based just center lane miles? Is it based upon total lane miles? Is it based upon population? And the idea was, once we looked at the numbers and tried to get a better idea, we determined that it's more of a hybrid. So if you see the up above, Jefferson County will be taking on 50% of the cost associated with the coalition. Based upon lane miles and population, if you look at Arvada, Lakewood at 15%, Broomfield at 10, Golden at 10, and Morrison is at 0. Jefferson County is going to pay their piece. It's so small as far as the lane miles to there, plus their population of 750. It actually costs us more money to do the IGA than we'd get from them. So we decided we'll just go ahead and eat that, and they're a part of the membership. Now, if you look at the numbers and the percentages broken out there, if you look at what's referred to as a planning environmental linkage study, excuse the typo. Sorry, I just noticed that. If you look at the PEL, on average, let's say it's a $2 million PEL study. And what that PEL would look at is different changes, financials, where would the money come from for different type of multimodal improvements that are determined necessary. If you look at this PEL that they put together, of a $2 million study, CDOT has agreed to pay 80% of that type of a study for this coalition. Thus, if you look at the breakouts there, Jefferson County would pay the $200,000 and so on and so forth down. So, Mayor, don't get out your checkbook just yet. But this
Not to worry.
This is just an example of, if it is determined by the coalition, this is the direction that the coalition would like to head. This is, a similar breakout. These numbers are fairly solid when you look at, say, a PEL study and the agreements that we have already received with CDOT. The next page, people may say, hey, who have you talked to? Where have you been? What's been going on? This may be the first time you've heard about West Connect. The publication of the draft and final West Connect plan is actually on the Jeffco website, and I provided that link for you on this document. In association, like I said, we've been working on this for 3 years, and we the county, bore the cost of putting together that exhibit that some of you have in front of you. We then put together, and we had 3 telephone town halls. And we felt it was important to do them in different districts. So we had districts 1, 2, and 3. And from there, we had over 15,000 Jefferson County residents participate. When I say Jefferson County, they could be unincorporated or they could be in the incorporated cities. We did not just look for a set group. We would dial out about we made 50,000 phone calls, 25,000 phone calls per meeting. And, some people, participated, others did not. But we had a really good outreach of 15,000 individuals who stayed on for almost the entire time. We also had, on September 9th of 2013, we had a West Connect open house. That was at the fairgrounds, where we had county staff. We had our consultant who prepared the West Connect plan. We had some other individuals there to answer any questions that anybody had of what we were doing and what was going on. We also then created a West Connect video. Many of you may have seen. It played on Channel 8 for a while, and it's also on YouTube. So if you want to see the YouTube video, there you go. If you're bored and hearing or something and you want to watch it, make sure you have your earphones on. And then also we have a group called Jeff Tag in Jefferson County, and it's a transportation advisory and action group. And associated with that is we'll bring up projects going on. CDOT is usually there, RTD is there. We have city representation, we have stakeholders throughout the community, whether it be Bike Jeffco, if you have area agency on aging, different groups that are there. I went through my notes, and you can see, bless you, I went through my notes for the past couple years, and I pulled out how many times it was brought up as far as going around, what they call around the horn, talking about different projects and working with CDOT and all the discussions. I took out all the discussion items. You didn't want to see all that, but I just put up the dates that items were discussed, and it's actually in the record, in the notes for that. Now, here's the ask. Looping back to my first few slides, when transportation systems are efficient, they provide economic and social opportunities and benefits that result in positive multipliers such as better accessibility to markets, employment, and additional investments. When transportation systems are deficient in terms of capacity or reliability, they can have an economic cost such as reduced or missed opportunities and lower quality of life. Efficient transportation reduces costs, while inefficient transportation increases cost. So I also brought along, by the way, thank you very much. Would love to have you as a member. The City of Lakewood is a member of the West Connect Coalition. My contact information is there. And I also brought along a few documents for you. One was 11 by 17 of the West Connect packet. And I apologize, I don't believe I brought enough for everyone, but if you would like more, I can send you the link to that document. You can pull it off of our website. These are all documents that are on our website. You can pull it down, you can print it out. Also, I sent a copy of the charter around, the West Connect charter. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I am complete.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do you have time to stick around for questions?
I'd be more than happy to, as long as you'd like.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to open, the public hearing, of course, is open. I'm going to open it up to public comment now, and then we'll go to questions and comments from City Council. There's nobody that's indicated a desire to speak, but I am guessing that Edie Bryant would like to speak. I'm just guessing based on your phone calls and the fact that you are walking down towards the podium. Please come forward. And you weren't here when I gave the original instructions on public comment, but you're quite familiar with them. 3 minutes, so
Yes,
welcome.
I'm Edie Bryan. I've lived here 44 years. I've been president of my homeowners association. I was on the Lakewood Planning Commission. I was on Lakewood City Council. I was on the RTD board. I worked to get the Fast Tracks package passed. And just recently, I served on the transportation component of the sustainability plan for the city of Lakewood. And I thought what we came up with in that, on the transportation component, combined with the sustainability criteria, was very good. I didn't think it meshed with this project. And from what Mr. Rozier has said this evening, I am kind of revising that to some extent. But you're going to have to show me, because I'm doubtful. Because I hear Mr. Rozier talking about roads, and I don't hear him mentioning anything else, although he did mention Bike Jeffco. I didn't hear him mention anything about, other than toll roads, and the toll roads presumably would pay for the roads. But I didn't hear him mention any other financing mechanism that would affect Lakewood. My major concern is that I don't know how this would affect Lakewood, either positively or negatively, or what the changes that would occur in our city would be. And that's why I talked to some of you, indicating that I think it needs a little more study from the Lakewood perspective, and I'm suggesting either sending it to the Planning Commission, who are the planning entity for Lakewood, and have expertise in that, and or having a Lakewood study session on it before you decide to move forward with this. This is a major expenditure, but looking ahead long term, this is a significant future project for Lakewood. And I think it needs a little more review from the Lakewood perspective before joining. I am not recommending not joining. There's a double negative. But I think we should look very carefully at it and the ramifications for Lakewood. Some may be positive and some negative, and does the positive outweigh the negative, or do we want to negotiate, as he mentioned, to make some modifications?
Thank you, Ms. Bryan. Right on time. Anyone else in chambers wish to make a comment? All right, with that, public comment is closed. We've got a few questions here from council members. I'm going to start this time, if you don't mind. A couple of things. First of all, in direct response to Ms. Bryant's comments, Ms. Bryant used the word project 2 or 3 times, and of course there is no project here. This is a coalition, and the purpose of the coalition is to look at all holistically at multimodal, which is a term Commissioner Rozier used, multimodal solutions to transportation. And these solutions, let me back up a little bit. This PEL, this environmental linkage study might take place. There's no guarantee it's going to take place, but it might take place. If it's going to take place, that's where the funding requirement for Lakewood comes in, if we want to be full members of the coalition. So, again, there is not a project here. I sent, in the interest of clarification and information, I sent council a couple of emails. I'm just going to repeat those for the public. On March 2nd, I sent an email, a clarification email to council. I talked a little bit about the process, as some questions had come up, I reminded council that this item had been approved as on first reading for scheduling tonight on February 23rd. I reminded everyone that the charter of the West Corridor Coalition was in their packet that evening and would be in their packet for this evening here. I did also mention that this ordinance would authorize a one-time expenditure, which you heard about tonight, for a PEL study that may or may not happen. I mentioned that CDOT would be contributing $1.6 million to that study. And then I included the goals of the West Corridor Connect Coalition, cut and pasted from the charter. And I also suggested, and I think Ms. Bryant kind of backed up these suggestions, if you think that Lakewood ought to have a seat at the table for these very important decisions, which may ultimately be made about transportation that will certainly impact Lakewood, then this is a one-time expenditure that's probably a pretty good value to approve. I also suggested that if this is, you want to single this out as simply the Beltway or the Jefferson Parkway, and you hate the idea of the Jefferson Parkway because of negative impacts you think it might have on Lakewood, you ought to want to have Lakewood at the table, right? I also suggested, if you like Jefferson County Parkway, even although that's not the only purpose of this coalition, if you like that idea, you also might want to be at the table for this one-time expenditure. And then I sent a couple of additions today that talked about the Jeff tag information, how many meetings that it had been mentioned at, and finally was a little bit mistaken on the Golden. I thought Golden was 60,000, it's 40,000, but I pointed out that Arvada, by the way, also passed this unanimously, right? Right. So, with that, I'll just conclude by saying this is important, and should this study go forward, it no doubt will have impact on Lakewood, and for a very modest amount of funding, due to its level, it has to be approved by City Council. I think Lakewood ought to have a seat at the table. With that, Councilor Wickman, that was the first light I saw.
Question for Don. If I'm going into the weeds, you can go ahead and shut me down. But I couldn't help but was reading through the whatever we call this on page 25. It made reference to a Rooney Road realignment. Since that's kind of in my ward, I'm kind of interested. What does that realignment mean? Page 25.
You really are getting in the weeds.
And if it is, that's fine. But like I said, that caught my attention.
Looks to me like that's on the west side of 470. Maybe.
Yeah.
And therefore in the county.
Yeah.
Well, I understand it's in the county, but like I say, it kind of affects my ward.
Wickman. If you look at that Rooney Road realignment, we were looking at, along with this plan, like I mentioned, it's not only for systems. So people think it's just the beltway. It's about complete. No, we're looking for on-system, off-system type of improvements through here. In this area, as you are well aware, as you come down that hill, I wouldn't even call it a 90. You have to back on yourself. And in winter months, it gets very icy in there, and we have some issues. We have a lot of cyclists. We also tasked our consultant is there a better way to make that work through there? And this is one of the options that our consultant came through. So to realign Rooney Road to come in right where the museum is for Dinosaur Ridge, and to have it as an intersection right there, and to take away the pressure from that very unique intersection.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Great. I didn't see the order of the lights, so Councilor Paul, then Councilor Quinn, then Councilor Kellen, Councilor Harrison.
Thank you.
Unless anybody's got.
I just have a comment. I just want to thank you, Commissioner Rozier. You have really, stepped up with this West Connect and kind of taken it on as your baby. So you've come a long way, and I think it's important. We like to try to work regionally and work together as different communities, and this is another example of that. And the fact that Golden's on board, so a lot of firsts with Golden recently. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Councilor
you.
Paul. The whole idea was to make sure that we work together regionally. These are regional improvements, and it's time to put our fighting aside and work together.
And I can just speak from having sat at the table in these meetings. Commissioner, you've done a remarkable job of, again, cooperating and collaborating and keeping everybody at the table. So thank you for that. Councilor Kellen.
Yes, I just want to make a comment as well. And looking at this and knowing that it's been a controversial issue, I really appreciate this approach. Getting all the parties at the table, people from both sides of the issue, and having a decision-making process that is dependent upon consensus in moving forward. And that's huge. That is exactly the right approach, and I wholeheartedly support this.
Thank you.
Councilor Quinn, Harrison, and Shakti.
Thank you. Let me just ask the obvious. I mean, I've read the charter over twice, fairly carefully, but I don't see that we're committing to anything other than participation in the coalition and the PEL study. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, it's just participation in the coalition. If it's deemed through the process that the scope of a PEL, which was identified as the logical first step, if it's deemed that that scope is just not achievable, if individuals feel as though they don't want to move forward, we have a coalition. That's what we have. We don't have a project. We have zero funding. Dollars that have been expensed have all been by the county, so there's really no outlay of city funds.
So what if the PEL study is not done? They just decide not to go forward with that. Then the coalition, in theory, would still continue to try to work cooperatively, but without the study.
Most definitely. It would work together cooperatively for those multimodal solutions that we see out there. Recently, you may have seen in the newspaper today, bless you, that today, 6th and 19th interchange that Golden is working on, more of a park-like setting on top, tunneling part of 6th Avenue. It would be, the coalition looking at funding, looking at financing. If Lakewood wished to do a project elsewhere where we can come together as a region and work together and to be a part of that because it's a collective good, that's where we would be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Harrison?
Two things. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it very much. Two questions. The first question is, so if I make sure that I'm going to follow up on Councillor Quinn's comment. The first step is the coalition, and we're not asking for money yet. And then the second step is, if the coalition deems that the study is appropriate, then you come to us with a bill for $60,000, and that's our maximum responsibility, correct?
That is correct.
Well, with the caveat of the extra $7,500 for hiring a facilitator.
Correct.
67.5.
Right. There is a cost associated with the facilitator that CDOT would be, and I'm going to back up here real quick. I didn't talk about the PEL, the process. In order to be very collaborative, part of this coalition, CDOT as a third party has agreed to take that on, to put it out to bid. They will manage it, and also to bring in a moderator / facilitator, as the mayor mentioned, to work with the group. So to eliminate any bias, any no finger pointing that, oh, since you hired this person, you're going to have a benefit. It's going to be all third party implemented.
Okay, thank you very much. And then a comment, and that would be that I think Councillor Wickman gave us the perfect example of why Lakewood needs to be at the table for this, because it does affect it's right there on the very edge of Lakewood, so it's really important for us to be part of that. So thank you. I'll be supporting this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shakti?
I just want to say that I can feel for the initial hesitation people might feel, like the concern that there's decisions made before we start the process. And I want to echo what Karen said, that in fact, this seems like a really great process, and it's great to see that, and I appreciate what the county's doing. And
thank you.
So.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Commissioner Roser. I would just like to say that real and honest leadership is building coalitions, finding consensus, and seeking counsel of those that are involved in the process. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we have no more questions or comments, so
Great.
thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Great job. Thank you. I'm now ready for a motion on item 19, Ordinance O 2015-5.
Mayor Murphy, I move for the adoption of Ordinance O 2015-5.
Second.
All right. See no more discussion. Please cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. We joined the crowd of unanimity. Thank you. Thank you seriously, I mean, if Golden, Arvada, it's just wonderful to see everybody on board, and it speaks to the cooperation and collaboration, so thank you. All right, the clerk, please read item 20 into the record.
Item 20, ordinance O 2015-4, amending sections 8.14.010, 8.14.020, 8.14.025, 8.14.060, 8.14.070, 8.14.080, and 8.14.090 of Title 8 of the Lakewood Municipal Code pertaining to health and sanitation, and amending sections 9.80.010, 9.80.020, 9.80.090, 9.80.100, 9.80.150, 9.85.020, 9.85.050, 9.85.060, 9.85.070, 9.85.080, and 9.85.090 of Title 9 of the Lakewood Municipal Code pertaining to public peace and safety.
Could you repeat that?
Yes.
Somebody had to do it. Okay. Good one, Dave. You got there first. Do you want to summarize this a little bit? Or? I'll ask City Manager Hodson just do a quick summary. It sounds maybe way more complicated than it really is.
Sure, thank you. So the purpose of this particular ordinance is to just do the cleanup and to reinstate the private property parking limitations that were previously in the zoning ordinance. So there aren't any changes in terms of what these regulations are. It's just a shift in where they are in the ordinances.
Anything? No? Okay. All right. So with that, are there any questions or comments from City Council? All right. Shakti.
There's just a nice clarification here about how we should all be able to compost for our gardens. So I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. All right. I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move for...
Wait, I'm sorry. I have to open this for public comment. Thank you. I've been reminded from each end of the dais tonight to open the public hearing. Nobody has signed up on the roster to indicate a desire to speak on this item. Anybody in chambers wish to speak on it? Item 20, Ordinance O 2015-4. All right. With that, I'll close public comment. Thank you, Councilor Barraway. Karen? Yes. Yes.
I move for the adoption of Ordinance O 2015-4 on second and final reading.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please cast your votes. All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Margie, any general business?
None.
Ms. Hodson, any report? Executive report? No?
Sir.
I don't think I have a report. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have a report? No? Council President?
Just a reminder to shop till you drop at the beautiful junk store.
Absolutely. Councilor Roybal?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick reminder, we're going to be having our Ward 3 meeting at Phillips United Methodist Church here on Saturday at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Councilor Barraway?
No report.
Councilor Coop? Councilor Quinn?
Just very briefly, I'm speaking a little better this week, so I didn't mention this last week, but prior to the National League of Cities Conference a few weeks ago, I attended the Focus 2015 Sustainability Conference at the French Embassy in Washington, D.C., and it was really a phenomenal event. The complete proceedings, I mean, all the presentations and the speeches, including, and this is really cool, a list of top 10 key points from each subject area are available in a library that was sent to me. Anyone who would like to have this information, I'd be happy to forward the email to you. I've already sent it to our City Council President, but it's available to anyone who would like to see it. It's really a tremendous amount of information. But those top 10 lists really help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Wickman?
We skipped item 21, general business.
No. I opened it up and there was no general business.
Oh, we went by real quick. Okay. All right, then under my report, I have a question for council. I mentioned earlier by email, I'd like a clarification. Under the Open Meetings Act, we have these requirements. And I'm unclear as to the use of emails amongst council before meetings. Can you elaborate on that?
We will do so when Mr. Cox gets back. Right?
That would be fine. Generally speaking, Councilman Wickman, there's a body of law regarding that. There's a bit of a gray area, I must admit. I haven't talked to City Attorney Cox about this matter, so it'd probably be best to do a legal memorandum to the council to answer any questions you might have. And in the meantime, if you have specific questions, general questions, bits and pieces about the law that you would like to have answered, shoot myself and Mr. Cox an email, and we'll provide a memo for you.
Okay, what I heard is we will follow up on this in a future meeting.
Yes, sir. We City Attorney Cox will be back in town, I believe, next week. So we'll follow. I'll make sure I follow up with him.
Okay. All right. Then on reports, a little shout out. I had the opportunity to go down to the legislature today. They were having the Colorado Aerospace Day. And so the Colorado Space Business Roundtable had a day-long interface with the state legislature, picked up a couple interesting points. 17,000 jobs here in Colorado are directly related to the aerospace industry. Obviously, Lockheed Martin being the big one here in South Jeffco Littleton, doing the Orion project. Anyway, a number of other things. Anyway, just want to, again, remind folks that our aerospace business is something we should support.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
No report.
Councillor Kellen. Councillor Shakti.
Some of you know my mother works in Africa. She teaches midwives and nurses, trains them. And so I am going for 2 weeks to visit her. And because of that, the first Monday of the month award meeting has already happened. And the next, we scheduled it for this morning. And the Saturday award meeting, Councilor Roybal will be holding as scheduled. And then I also wanted to just put a save the date for May 19th. We're having a COPS and council meeting with Ward 3 and Ward 5 and other wards. Ward 3 and Ward 5 and Ward 4. So.
You know, I do have one quick announcement. Councillor Wickman's mention of the legislature triggered this. Last week, Senate Bill 177 passed committee in the Senate, and that, of course, is a construction defects bill. It's only the second time in about a decade that this conversation has been going on down at the Capitol that a bill like this has passed committee. While a little bit less robust than our own ordinance here in Lakewood, certainly Lakewood's leadership on this issue was a significant factor in moving this forward, and this time by a 6-2 vote. Now, from there it goes on to the whole Senate, and then on to the House, where it may be a little more difficult, but certainly this broad coalition, region-wide coalition, statewide coalition that has been formed, including affordable housing advocates, is certainly having an impact down at the legislature. Margie, anything?
No report.
Greg, anything from the city attorney? No? Kathy? All right, thank you. We are adjourned.